Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello, thank you for joining us for Art Rocks with me, James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine. It's been a while since the days when a rakish hat was de rigueur for attending church, a wedding, or even other more mundane social events. But while you might think that the heyday for high-style hats has passed, there could be a comeback brewing if Louisiana hat maker to the stars Mimi Holaday has her way. Though Holaday has designed all sorts of garments in the course of her career, here she is to explain what brought her passion for hat making to a head, so to speak.
This is a really avant-garde piece for Ashley Longshore, who's a really famous painter who lives in New Orleans. I'm still working on that. The lace applique is draped over a wire base, and it's very 3D. So there's pieces of the lace flowering that are protruding in the inside and coming out the outside, and inside of that will be built a headband that supports it up. I was kind of thinking Marie Antoinette masquerade ball type thing when I initially made this design. So I thought it would be really fun to do like a colorful wig inside of it since it's so transparent, or even have some type of like bird with a feather design inside. But I definitely wanted the texture of the lace kind of coming down, very soft and elegant, and then pieces of it going towards the inside and coming out the outside, so very three-dimensional. Some of the famous people that have worn my hats are Gigi Hadid, the supermodel. Then I had two guys from the show Posse that both have rocked my hats at award shows, and it's been great. Billy Porter, he's a fashion icon, and so that was really exciting. My mother, Susan Holaday, modeled for a famous designer in New Orleans named Yvonne LaFleur. Yvonne LaFleur is famous for wedding gowns and dresses and ready-to-wear, but a large part of what she offered was hats. I was exposed to hats and fashion on both sides of my family. So we were talking about earlier how back in the day, wearing a hat completed the look. And I think as a child, seeing my mom wearing these hats and my grandparents and my aunt in Los Angeles, they were very stylish as well. And my aunt went to fashion design school in Los Angeles, the same school I went to. Initially, I went to college for fashion merchandising. I was gonna get into the retail side and be a buyer and a stylist, which I did go into the industry as a stylist for several years before I became a designer. I had access to the industry in Los Angeles. I was working out there as an intern, and I worked a bunch of different jobs. I worked for a swimsuit company, a lingerie company, and then I had an opportunity to go work for Ted Kim, who owns a knitwear design company, and he was great, and his background was really noble because he came from Donna Karan and Michael Kors, and so he went off on his own and started his own company, and I was with him when he was in the early stages. So that was a really big learning experience. And then after that, I worked for a textile design studio, which gave me exposure to all these different fashion brands because we were an independent company that made prints for all these different fashion brands like Vince and Brighton. So I got to see a lot of different aspects of the fashion industry that way as well. In 2015, I spent holiday in London, and I had access to a quality of hat there that I had never seen before. I purchased a velour hat from Harrods, the famous department store, and I was just so obsessed with this hat. I wore it every day for like 8 months. I started doing some research, and I found that there was a unique opportunity to be taught by this costume designer who was a milliner for many, many, many years from London that was flying into Fullerton, California and teaching this class. So it was a rare opportunity to get that kind of experience from that level of talent. And it was just a 3-day class, and I did that program with her. I ended up moving back to New Orleans with the intentions of doing a fashion design program because I wanted to create an entire collection of women's clothing and see what I was capable of. At that point as a designer, I had only been making costumes and working for other people, and my creative freedom wasn't there. I was making hats and I was making clothing. Because the hats were, I would make one and sell it and make one and sell it. It was more hands-on, and I actually enjoyed that construction process more as a designer. I'm more interested in haute couture and doing something unique, one of a kind. Whereas the clothing, that's more pattern making, cutting and sewing, and then going to production potentially in China or wherever with small, medium, large. There's a lot more money invested in that process as well. Whereas the hat, I could just buy a felt or a straw and make this unique design and sell it. It was a more feasible approach to starting my business as an independent designer at that point. I don't work with any poor quality materials. Everything that I have is premium standard. So my felts are premium, whether they're made out of koi poo, which is actually nutria, that's an invasive species here in Louisiana. So that's my first choice actually, because we're helping our wetlands in addition to providing a fashion statement and protection for people. My felt types that I currently offer are rabbit and koi poo, nutria, or straw. And this is an example of a premium felt made out of koi poo. And then I have some mixed media hats too. I make hats out of vinyl record albums. That's more novelty, but people love those. Kind of fun. This one's actually a Whitney Houston record. So it's a fun party prop because if you give it to the DJ at an event, the record will still play. There's different types of felts. There's a hood shape, and that's just called a hood, and that's made out of felt. And then there's another one that's kind of round with a bump in the middle, and that's called a capleen. And the same thing with straw. It can come as a hood or as a capleen. It's round with the bump in the middle. And then I use all these different wooden blocks to make the hat shape. So with steam and heat, I use to make the material more pliable. And then stretching it over my block shape. That's called blocking. I'm willing to experiment with just about anything. I plucked some little spikes off of a cactus in my garden and I made those into a hat trim recently. I love being creative with using things that are non-conventional, something that surprises people. I think as a designer, that's probably what's pushed me to do things a little different, is to spark curiosity. For sure, yeah. Dried flowers. I really like using organic materials a lot. So I have access to silk flowers, which I do use, and those are beautiful. But I tend to, me personally, like to use things that are a little bit more organic. I even use bugs. You can see on the hat that I'm wearing, it has a butterfly on it. This is a real butterfly. And I've used dragonflies, and I'm not really opposed to anything. The different assortments of ribbons and leathers and trims that I have on hand is bigger now. So when a client comes, we can pick out more things on the first day. I've been lucky enough to have clients attend the Kentucky Derby wearing my hats, which has been really exciting. Someone going to an event like that wants to be avant-garde and stand out and do something really different, whereas majority of my client base, they're looking for something for everyday wear. And I love that too. I don't want someone to get something from me that they can only wear one time, especially with my brides. I encourage them to, style their hat where they can wear it for the big day, but then they have something they can wear for a lifetime. So something that's unique that I offer my clients is 100% of the hat is custom made for each client. A lot of hat makers will, purchase their sweatbands already pre-made, but I don't like the quality of those. They're kind of stiff and they stick to the forehead. So I actually make my own sweatbands. They're deerskin. They're very, very soft. And every single interior lining is made custom tailored to each client. So you can see this one has the client's name, and all the fabrics are always different. So the entire hat is completely tailored to the client, which is unique. I haven't seen any other hat makers offering that. My favorite hat is always changing. Oftentimes it's whatever new hat I'm working on is my favorite hat. This is called a heavy, and it's a little bit more masculine shape with a wider brim. This is a hat that I wear almost every day. I love this style. And the colors really complement a lot of different garments because it's so neutral. Turn of the century, having a hat was a sign of nobility, whereas I still think that's a standard for today. It definitely is a conversation piece. It makes people more interested, and it does give you kind of a status symbol. But I don't think that it's a requirement for being nicely dressed. Someone can be elegant, and not wearing a hat, but it's definitely favored. Brides are wearing masculine style felt hats now, whereas that wasn't trendy really in the past decades. I would love to get into more than just the hat business, like handbags and doing more cut and sew and clothing, but I just would need a bigger team to tackle all of that. And I think that's in the future for sure. I would love to diversify.